Yes, sir. All right, all right. Here we go. Here we go. I'm here. I'm here. I know y'all were waiting. Here we go. Let's talk about it. You see the thumbnail, you see the title of the video. We're going to get right into it. It is official. Donald Trump has been found guilty and is now a convicted felon. He has been found guilty on 34 counts. 34 counts 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. Okay, so these are there's a felony on the former president's record. He is the first president in U.S. history to have been convicted of a crime after serving as the president. So this is, of course, a stain on his record, but the reactions to it are kind of split. Some people are saying that this is a politically motivated trial and they are dismissing it out of hand. They're saying, oh, it's not that big of a deal. They're trying to belittle it and downplay it as though it's not a big deal. All right. There's another segment of the population saying, look, we finally did it. He's done so much wrong. We finally have him dead to rights, convicted on a crime. He's facing up to 4 years, but mind you, this is his first offense and it is a non-violent crime. So him serving any time behind bars is highly unlikely. But it's more of a symbolic guilty and a symbolic win for people on the so-called left. I would say for people under the Democratic Party's umbrella, they're looking at this conviction as a symbolic win, a symbolic nail in the coffin on Donald Trump. However, it's not so cut and dry because this felony conviction does not prevent him from running and possibly winning the presidency this November. Okay, so like you, when I heard that Donald Trump was convicted of this felony charges, the first thing in my head was, let me do some research and find out what exactly were these charges even about. We've been hearing so much about the Stormy Daniels, hush money trial, but why is paying someone hush money illegal? Like, what are the details? What is really going on with these charges against Trump? Is he guilty? Is he guilty would be a question. Is he the only one that has done this? And is this trial and was this conviction fair? Those are some questions we want to get answered. So without any further ado, let's jump into some articles. We've got some articles we're going to read. We've got some videos we're going to react to. So let's get into it. All right, so this is coming from CNN Politics. We're not going to read this whole article. I'm just using this to point out the 34 counts that he was found guilty on. The headline reads, Trump found guilty on 34 felony charges. Donald Trump was the first ever former or current president to face a criminal trial. Now, here are the individual charges that he was found guilty of. Count one, falsifying business records in the first degree, which was an invoice to Michael Cohen. Count 10, the same thing, only this time it was for check and stub. 11, falsifying business records in the first degree. Again, invoice from Michael Cohen. Count 12, falsifying business records in the first degree. This time, a voucher entry in ledger. So as you can see, and I'm not going to read all of these down to you, but as you can see, the charge is basically the same. Falsifying business records in the first degree. The only reason there's 34 separate counts is because there were different items which he falsified in this effort. Right? So it's really one crime, one situation, one issue here, and just 34 separate documents which count as separate counts. All right, so I just wanted to make that clear for anyone who might be confused. It's not like he was convicted of 34 separate crimes. He's convicted of the same crime, which is falsifying business records in the first degree, only he did it 34 different times, meaning 34 different items which he falsified. Okay? I wanted to make that clear. Now, with that being said, the political motivation. How is this politically motivated? For that, we're going to jump into the political article. We're going to jump into the political article here. So article is coming from Politico, and they kind of break it down here. They make it clear what the situation is. Basically, it was a payoff in the eve of an election. Okay? The jury of 7 men and 5 women deliberated for a day and a half before issuing the guilty verdict. The panel found that Trump falsified business documents that reflected a series of payments he made to his former lawyer, Michael Cohen. All right, so basically, Trump was giving money to Michael a series of times, which means the 34 different counts, those are 34 different items. He was giving money to Michael Cohen. Those payments reimbursed Cohen for $130,000 in hush money that he sent to porn star Stormy Daniels 12 days before the 2016 election. Okay, so this is where the hush money comes from. He's giving basically Michael Cohen, Trump's lawyer, gave $130,000 to Stormy Daniels to say, hey, we know that Trump is a scumbag. We know that Trump cheated on his wife while she was pregnant. We know that she had sex with you, and this information, if exposed to the public, could ruin Donald Trump's chances of being elected in 2016. So please, Stormy, please. We know that Trump had an affair. He stepped out on his wife while she was pregnant. He's a scumbag. He lacks discipline. Please don't tell anybody until after the election. Here's $130,000. Now, after Michael Cohen handled that situation, he goes back to Trump and says, hey, it's done. Be sure to shoot me that $130,000 I just gave to Stormy Daniels and reimburse me. I gave her the money out of my own pocket, so it won't get back to you. This is hush money. We don't want ties to show that you gave $130,000 to Stormy Daniels. So I, Michael Cohen, will give it to her on your behalf, right? 12 degrees of separation. We're trying to have some separation here. So I gave her the money, me and Michael Cohen. Now, Trump, you give me the money and reimburse me. That's what's happening. At the time, Daniels was threatening to go public with her account of having had sex with Donald Trump a decade earlier. So this happened 10 years earlier. And she's like, yeah, remember that? Remember we had sex when, yeah. Trump, with Cohen as a middleman, struck a non-disclosure, an NDA, deal with Daniels to ensure her claims didn't damage his White House bid. But when Trump later reimbursed Cohen, this is where he messed up at. He falsely designated the money as legal expenses in his company books. So they got him on an accounting. Basically an accounting technicality. He didn't want to put, I use this $130,000 as a settlement. He didn't want to put settlement that would alert people, alert the media, hey, there was a settlement. What's going on here? No, he's trying to keep it quiet. He's trying to keep it low. So he just kept it as a vague term. He said these are legal expenses. All right. So they're saying, no, these weren't legal expenses. This was a settlement. That's the argument that's being made here. Prosecutors from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office charged Trump with 34 felony counts, accusing him of falsifying 11 invoice records, 12 general ledger entries, and 11 checks, some of which were signed by Trump with black Sharpie. So this is a technicality. This is an accounting faux pas, right? This is pretty petty. It's basically what it is. It's petty. All right. Yeah. Did he give money to Stormy Daniels? Yes. Is giving money to Stormy Daniels to be quiet illegal? No. This is an NDA. This is a settlement. Just be quiet. I'm allowed to give her this money. That's fine. Where he messed up at was trying to conceal it. Him trying to keep this thing secret is what they're calling a crime. In order to find Trump guilty, the jury had to conclude beyond a reasonable doubt not only that Trump falsified the records with fraudulent intent, that fraudulent intent meaning he wanted to keep people from knowing that this was a settlement and he wanted to trick people into thinking these are just common legal expenses, which they weren't. They were hush money for Stormy Daniels. So that's the fraud. But also that Trump did so to commit or conceal another crime. Wait, so there's another crime that he was paying to cover up? What's the other crime? Right? In order to catch him on this falsifying records, what was the crime he was trying to conceal? Paying Stormy Daniels isn't a crime. That underlying crime, prosecutors argued successfully, was a violation of a New York State election law that prohibits conspiring to promote a candidate by unlawful means. The hush money to Daniels, Stormy Daniels, prosecutors said was unlawful because it violated campaign finance laws. And they said Trump reimbursement arrangement to Cohen violated tax laws as well. So they're trying to get Trump on some accounting, some tax laws. These are some petty charges, right? These are some petty charges, but they got it to stick. They got it to stick. All right. At the end of the day, he was intentionally keeping the vague term of legal expenses instead of designating these funds for what they were, which was a settlement to Stormy Daniels. So he had the intent of downplaying this settlement, keeping it hush, keeping it out of the public eye. So he falsified the records via Michael Cohen, and that is what it is. Let's finish out a little bit more of this article, then I'll give you my perspective of what I think of it. Trump denied wrongdoing and long described the case as a sham, even before he was indicted in the spring of 2023. The former president claimed that the investigation was politically motivated, which I would say it probably was. Early in the trial, he accused the jurors of being 95% Democrats. And here's the thing about it. It doesn't matter if the jury was Democrats or Republicans. At the end of the day, I believe Trump was guilty. So that's a deflection to say, oh, he was only found guilty because they were Democrats. No, he was found guilty because he did it. He did it. He falsified those documents with Michael Cohen. He said this isn't a settlement, which is what it was. These are just common legal expenses. And he did that in order to conceal what it was so it wouldn't go out into the public view 16 days prior to the election. Even before he was indicted in the spring of 2023, he claimed that this investigation was politically motivated. The only reason this crime was able to stick was because it was politically motivated. By definition, the crime that they are accusing him of having committed was a violation of campaign finance laws. By definition, this is politically motivated. You would only be guilty of this crime if he is in fact running for president, if he in fact is beholden to the campaign finance laws. They said Trump's reimbursement arrangement also violated tax laws, but primarily it was the campaign finance laws that he violated. So by definition, in order for these crimes to stick, yes, they're politically motivated by definition. It was his violation of the campaign finance laws and him trying to conceal the money given to Stormy Daniels that violated the campaign finance law. So by definition, yes, this is politically motivated. But does that mean he's not guilty? No. No, it's politically motivated, sure. But at the end of the day, he did it. At the end of the day, he is guilty of committing this crime. Right? So I'm kind of on both sides of this. I'm kind of seeing this thing from both sides. There's a lot of Republicans who are like, "Oh, this was politically motivated. It's a sham." Listen, there's a lot of politicians. Trump is not the only one who is participated in this type of crime. The only reason Trump was convicted was because the powers that be were strongly and staunchly against Donald Trump. One of the primary reasons is because of January 6th, but even that besides, he was very much hated by the powers that be, right? So yes, they were trying to weaponize the Justice Department. But does that make him any less guilty is the question. Does that make him any less guilty? See, when I was a kid, I was raised the way to avoid a guilty verdict is to not commit a crime. That's how I was raised. At the end of the day, whether they're against you or not, you don't commit a crime, you don't have anything to worry about. If he wasn't out there running behind his wife while she was pregnant, sleeping with these porn stars, paying these hookers, he wouldn't be in this situation. That man decided to cheat on his wife with a porn star while she was pregnant, and it came back to haunt him. He tried to pay it off, and it came back to haunt him. It's like what's the frame? Oh, what a horrible web we weave when first we conceive to deceive. Right? The whole situation could have been avoided if he would have just been a stand-up man, take care of his family, take care of his wife. But no, all of this was just the extension. Right? This whole situation was the fruit of a poisonous tree. The original crime was him going behind his wife, sleeping with Stormy Daniels while his wife was pregnant. That was the original sin. Is that a crime? No. But from that act, extortion came in the form of $130,000 requirement from Stormy Daniels to keep quiet in the middle of Trump's election. And from that extortion came the criminal act of falsifying these records in order to avoid public view, public knowledge of the fact that he cheated on his wife, which you're running as a Republican. There's a lot of Christians in that Republican camp. And Christians don't tend to take too kindly to people committing adultery. This is in 2016 before we saw senile Joe Biden run for office. In 2016, we had options like Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, which compared to an adulterous Donald Trump, I don't know. It was a close race. Him getting exposed as having cheated on his wife while she was pregnant days before election day, that could have caused some serious damage. So yeah, it was necessary for him. Hey, if we want to win this, we're gonna have to. Hey, we gotta shoot her some money. Michael Cohen says, Trump. Okay, you're right. You take care of that. I'll pay you back later. Right. So this is all fruit of that poisonous tree, cheating on his wife. From that came the extortion, the $130,000 settlement. From that came the falsifying of records, the first criminal act that he had to commit in order to win in 2016. And from that criminal act came the fuel for the fire. See, if it wasn't for that, they would still be after him, but they wouldn't have this guilty verdict tree. That would be one less thing they would have on him. But the reason they had this slam dunk was because, hey, that original sin trickled down effects, right? Now, with that being said, what I'm saying here, before I give you the moral of the story, let's see how some other folks are reacting. I'm going to show you how some other folks are reacting here. Then I'm going to tell you the real as far as presidential implications in 2024. This is one thing I found interesting. Some people who are defending Donald Trump, they're holding up signs like this. It says pursued, persecuted, and prosecuted. They're saying he's really against the system, just like all those other patriots were. They've got Donald Trump standing in the middle of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Get the heck out of here. Tell you it ain't so. Do you see this? They got Donald Trump. Now, all the good things that Martin Luther King has done, he went to prison for really standing on business, for doing something just. He went to prison for doing something just, Martin Luther King did. Boycotting an apartheid system. That's what Martin Luther King was arrested for. Donald Trump went to prison for, well, he didn't go to prison yet, but Donald Trump was convicted of trying to give hush money to a porn star. Do you think that's in the league of Martin Luther King, who went to prison for standing up against an apartheid system? See, some people are acting as though because this trial was politically motivated, which it was, that makes this any more clean for Donald Trump. No, at the end of the day, Donald Trump was convicted because he was guilty, and he was guilty because he was doing some sleazebag stuff. He was cheating on his wife with some porn stars while his wife was pregnant. That's not honorable. That's not honorable. It doesn't, whether he's being the victim of a politically motivated attack or not. The question stands: is he guilty of the crime? Did he do what he's being accused of having have done? I will submit to you that yes, it's likely that he did that. The jury found him guilty, and I don't think they would just find him guilty because they're voting Democrats in November. They found him guilty because they looked at the evidence and said, okay, did $130,000 go from Michael Cohen to Stormy Daniels days before the election in 2016? Yes, it did. Did the money later come from Donald Trump to Michael Cohen for the exact same amount, $130,000? Yes, it did. What was the reasoning behind that transfer? Donald Trump gave legal expenses when in fact it was a settlement for Stormy Daniels. Is that and that violates campaign finance laws? Is that so unreasonable? No, he's guilty of the crime at hand. Now, the question is there's a lot of other politicians who are guilty as well, and if they were ever found to be charged, they would likely get the same result. But the fact that this is motivated by politics doesn't make Trump any less guilty or any less clean. People holding up signs with Donald Trump next to Martin Luther King when Martin Luther King was arrested for opposing an apartheid system. You think that is equal to you paying off porn stars for doing dirt behind your wife? That's not the same, bro. That's not the same. Martin Luther King's mugshot is honorable because he went down standing on something that he believed in. Trump went down for cheating on his wife. That's not the same. That's not the same. That's not the same. You did? But let's see how the Republicans, let's play a video and see how some of the Republicans are answering that situation. Check this out. Hold on. Blah, 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 blah. Be right back, guys. I gotta pause one moment for this ad, and we're back. Can we hear that? Let's get this sound.
That it is unreal. President Trump would be considered a first-time offender. These are non-violent crimes. So it seems that it is unlikely the judge would sentence him to prison, but we are now up to 31 counts guilty out of 34. 32 guilty, also coming in from inside the courtroom. Our producer's now saying 33 and 34. They're saying guilty on all 34 charges. That is where we are at. The jurors, it looks like we're going to leave for the day. Suddenly we get this verdict. It is 34 guilty counts on all of this. I want to bring in Andy McCarthy, who's here with me, Judge Deneen as well, and Trey Gowdy. Andy, where we go from here, obviously there will automatically be an appeal from this Trump team as quickly as possible. There's the legal issue of sentencing to come. That's going to take maybe months to get to a pre-trial report on this.
It's a historic trial of a former president of the United States by his partisan adversaries. Whatever you think of the results, it's inconceivable in New York that anyone else other than Donald Trump would ever been indicted in the...
Okay, listen to what he's saying. Regardless of what you believe about the results, they're trying to have you ignore the fact that he's actually guilty of what happened. And they're saying, well, in New York, everyone does it. This crime is so common that it's a farce for him to be found guilty. Well, if that's the case, well, why is it a crime? Because, see, here's the thing about it. They don't ever give black people that type of leniency. They don't give black people that type of leniency. They don't say, oh, when these black kids are getting shot and killed by the police, the first thing that they do is show a mugshot of that black kid. The mugshot could be of 5 years, 10 years in the past. The first thing they do when one of these black kids gets shot by the police is they're going to show a mugshot. Oh, this kid was arrested for smoking marijuana. No one ever says, oh, well, in California, the fact that that would be used against him. No. They say at the end of the day, he was convicted of a crime. They use the most minute, the smallest of crimes against black people and hold it against us as if, you know, as if there's no redemption. As if there's no redemption. If you get killed and you have some marijuana in your system, you smoked a week ago. It doesn't matter. They're going to be like, oh, he had marijuana in the system. He deserved to have been shot in the back and killed by the police. They use any type of criminality, no matter how minute and how non-violent that crime is, to demonize black people all the time, all the time, all the time. You know that. You know that. But as soon as it comes to Trump, oh, well, forget about whether you believe he did it or not, because he did it. The fact that he would be charged of this is just absurd. They don't even mention the fact, hey, do you think he did it though? They try to just gloss over that. They just completely gloss over that, right? But they don't do that for us. And here's another thing. When's the last time you saw Republicans defend a convict? This is the first time I've ever seen it. This is the first time I've ever turned to Fox News and seen somebody on Fox News or angry that somebody was found guilty. Usually, people get upset when someone's found guilty or found innocent, right? Like when people think about O.J. Simpson, God rest the dead, they would say, oh, we're mad at O.J. Simpson because he was found not guilty and we just know he did it. So people are mad about O.J. Simpson. People are mad about George Zimmerman. Hey, George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin and they found him not guilty. They chose not to indict him. People are mad at George Zimmerman because they know that they're guilty, but they were found not guilty. Never until this Trump indictment or this Trump conviction have I ever seen people get mad at someone who was guilty be found guilty. Please, you answer me. Have you ever seen somebody get upset at a guilty person being found guilty before this Trump trial? Give me another example of someone who committed a crime and was later convicted of the crime that they obviously committed, and people get upset that the convict was convicted. I've never seen Republicans defend a criminal so heavily. Never. Let's hear what else this guy has to say.
This way, by Alvin Bragg, the elected for New York, that anyone else adversaries. Historic trial of a former president of the United States by his partisan adversaries. Whatever you think of the results, it's inconceivable in New York that anyone else other than Donald Trump would ever been indicted in this way. By Alvin Bragg, the elected progressive Democratic district attorney who campaigned on the fact that he would go after Donald Trump, that he had a history of going after Donald Trump. This is a very political exercise, and you have to say that it accomplished what it set out to accomplish. What they wanted was to have a situation where they could call Donald Trump a convicted felon in the run-up to the election. We have an elected Democrat who got that accomplished. He got a very friendly judge who ruled his way on every important thing and turned the jury instructions into a roadmap to conviction. So now I assume, with the mission having been accomplished, we'll have more procedural regularity, Shannon. As you just said, there'll be a pre-sentence investigation. There should be a sentencing scheduled, and we'll go from there. But this case will be appealed, and I hope that there'll be more fairness and equity in the appeal than there was in the trial.
And Trey.
Okay, so of course they're expecting an appeal. Of course they're expecting an appeal. But check this out, man. Here's the moral of the story. Here's the million-dollar question. What will be the influence of this case on the 2024 November elections, the presidential elections coming up in a few months? Now, of course, we're going to have to see what will be the sentencing. The sentencing is important. Will he be sentenced to any time in prison? Very doubtful. I doubt it. I don't think he's going to serve a day in prison. But he could be given something like probation, which could impact his ability to travel and campaign. he could even be sentenced to house arrest. Now, I don't believe he would be sentenced to house arrest because that would, they're already claiming this is a politically motivated charge, which of course it is. But if they try to confine him to his house in the middle of this campaign, this presidential campaign, that would bring some serious heat and blowback as far as optics for the judicial system. The judicial system is supposed to be fair. It's supposed to be fair and nonpartisan, non-political. They're already saying the trial itself is political, but if the sentencing was to confine Trump to his own home, that is looking very partisan, seeing as this is a non-violent first offense. Right? So time in prison, very unlikely, very unlikely. But probation and home arrest or home confinement are two punishments that could have large implications on Trump's ability to campaign in different states. Because mind you, if you're on probation, you got to talk to your PO. Hey PO, do you mind if I go to this state? It's short notice. No, you didn't give me 48 hours notice, which is which is the time that I told you that you need to give me prior to any out of state travel. See, your PO could start to have a lot of influence, and your PO is just a normal person. This is someone who works for everyone else. You don't get a special PO because you're the former president. You're dealing with the same Aunt Jane who's been dealing with all these other knuckleheads. All right? So we're going to see the sentencing is important. As far as the voters go, the court of public opinion, I don't think that this is going to move the needle very much. Now we see that his Donald Trump's stock has plummeted 10% in less than 24 hours. But as far as voters, the people who supported Trump are already supporting Trump, and this conviction is not going to disincentivize them. This would likely motivate them. And the people who didn't support Trump, the people who are happy to see he was convicted, they were already against Trump, and this conviction isn't making them any more powerful. Right? The undecideds, I think the undecideds still don't care. I don't think that this is a big issue. I think most of the undecided recognize that this is a political trial, politically motivated trial. He's convicted of the crime, so yes, I think that a lot of people expect and understand that he's he's a convicted felon, but that I don't think is going to have much sway with the voters. The people who did support him will continue to support him. The people who did not support him will continue to not support him. And the undecideds, I don't think are going to be highly motivated by this conviction either way. But hey, that's just what I think. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. Leave it in the comment section. If you've made it this far in the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button. And if it's your first time watching, do me a personal favor and smash the subscribe button for more content just like this. Dropping content on a large range of topics from news, hip hop, current events, politics. You like it, we love it. Come on back for more because there's no shortage of topics to talk about. We got a lot of stuff to discuss here. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next. I almost forgot something. Let me not do that. I got to give a word to our sponsors. I hope you guys have been following the sickle cell PSAs. I hope you guys have been following the sickle cell PSAs. They're dropped as an individual playlist as well. So you can go to my channel, Fry Time Media, and you go to playlist and you can the sickle cell PSAs. These are a standalone series, and each episode is building upon the last. So you can watch these as a standalone series. But shout out and salute to our sponsors of today's video, which is a sickle cell PSA. Let's watch this.
What's up? You're not your usual selves.
I'm just fed up, okay? On top of everything else, I have to deal with racial bias and injustice from my doctors and staff. Racial bias within healthcare causes caregivers to perceive folks like us that have sickle cell as combative when we advocate for ourselves. Or I'm unfairly labeled as pretentious. As a pretentious patient, I'm simply asking my doctors for additional meds for the pain. He acted as if I were a druggie and further restricted my opioid prescriptions. Now I'm left with next to nothing. Okay, it's not fair. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. If I don't ask for meds, I don't get it. I'm considered uncommunicative and non-cooperative. If I ask for meds, I'm labeled as addictive and pushy. Either way, I'm in pain.
That's true. As you know, it takes a lot of emotional pain. There's a lot of emotional pain. Those of us with sickle cell experience, among other things, a decreased quality of life, depression, anxiety, a sense of hopelessness, and even a sense of hopelessness. The way we are treated in the doctor's office just adds to that burden. I feel like I'm just being profiled for just being me.
The physical pain and the wall of injustice experienced by those with sickle cell is real and should never be dismissed. Healthcare providers need to listen with the intent to understand. Walk a mile in their shoes. The struggle is real.